Hello everyone, my name is Dutchy, welcome to RPG Labs, and well, let's get into it. Alright, so today we will be talking about summons. Now, I'm gonna actually use the Vagabond for this because the Vagabond has very low FP, meaning he actually can't summon a whole lot. But the ones he can summon, you can actually make extremely overpowered, and there's actually one that doesn't even take up any FP, but takes off your health, which the Vagabond is perfect for if you've got quite a bit of health. Now, I'll also be talking about how to make this summons even more powerful than it already is. And, well, yeah, let's get into all the summons. Now, most of these summons I will be testing against a pretty decent enemy, which is the Iron Maiden with the chain blade things. I don't know the actual name of it. But anyway, we're going to be testing it against this big fella over here. Now, first off, we have the Wandering Nobles. These guys really aren't that great. I mean, they're kind of good if you're fighting a big mob and, well, you kind of need to distract yourself, but when you first summon them, they actually get a fright of the enemy that is in front of them anyway, which means they're literally stunned for the first few seconds. They do have a little bit of fire with them, and I guess if they're grouping up on one enemy, as long as the enemy doesn't have too much poise, they can technically stun lock them. But, as you can see, against this guy, they're not too strong. Now we are moving on to the Mannequin Soldiers. The Mannequin Soldiers are pretty damn strong, to be honest. They get a bit distracted when they first get spawned, and they will pretty much fire at anything around them that's, well, a hostile to you technically, but even if those things are just chilling and lying down, they will still attack them for some reason. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because sometimes those things that are just chilling and hanging out are actually gonna come awake very soon and attack you. Now, if they get hurt, they will actually do this attack where they spin around and fire arrows in every single direction, as you can see over there. This is particularly good if they are being swarmed by lower level enemies, meaning they can take care of them pretty damn fast. Also, I just realized they're the Marionette Soldiers, not Mannequin. Alright, now here we have the Winged Misforgotten. The Winged Misforgotten is actually pretty decent. It does low damage output, but it has a very good benefit of being in the air most of the time. Meaning some enemies just won't be able to hit them at all, and you just have sort of free reign, as you can basically see over here. Now, there is one downside to him being in the air. His poise is extremely low, meaning if he gets hit once, he will basically go down to the ground and won't be able to move. Now, depending on the enemy that's fighting him, that means that the enemy can basically walk over to him, get free hits in, and stun him until he's dead. The one good thing is that if he has a small brief opening after going down, he will automatically jump straight back up into the air and hang out there. Meaning the enemy can't hit him again until they do, and then knock him back down, like that. Now we come to a pretty cool one actually, which is the Stormhog. The Stormhog is pretty good actually because he gives you a buff, and he has some pretty damn cool attacks. Now, just sort of like with the last one, he is in the air, so his poise is quite weak, but his maneuverability is a lot faster, meaning he can dish out more damage, and I think he's also a little bit tankier. A lot of his moves also avoid a lot of attacks from the enemy. As you can see over here, he goes straight through the enemy, allowing him to deal damage and avoid attacks. Now, that doesn't mean that he's invincible while he's doing these sorts of attacks. It just basically means he goes straight through the enemy, meaning it's harder for the enemy to hit them. But I do reckon the Stormhog is actually pretty solid because of its low cost of FP. The enemies will be very distracted with him, won't be able to hit him too much, and still will put out a bit of decent damage. Alright, now we come to the Skeleton Bandit. The Skeleton Bandit is pretty powerful, I reckon, because, well, he dishes out a decent amount of damage. He can also resurrect himself, meaning that he can come back after dying with full health. The only downside is that when he is in his reanimation stage, he can be hit once more with any sort of attack, doesn't matter what, and he will be dead for good. But that's still a lot better than just dying straight away. Now we have the Skeleton Militiamen. Now, these guys are basically the exact same. They can resurrect themselves at full health, and, well, that's pretty good. The only downside is that they have a bit of less health, they also don't do as much damage, and they don't have rapid succession attacks, really. They're pretty slow. I think they're decent, but just because of their resurrection ability, which the other one has as well. Now, because they are also in a group, that means technically they can defend each other while the other one's resurrecting. So that's always a plus side. Alright, now we come to the Mimic. Now the Mimic is very strong because, well, what it does, it replicates you. Meaning your entire build will be basically the Mimics. Now, you will also lose health instead of FP for this one, so make sure you get quite a bit of health or just drink a potion straight away afterwards. The coolest thing about the Mimicus is that he will copy your entire loadout. Now, let's say you have a crossbow in your right hand that you can swap out for a sword. The Mimic will swap this out every now and then. Not to its full effectiveness, but still pretty decent. As you can also see, he hardly takes any damage because he is quite tanky. Now, he is also quite tanky in the lower level forms, and he is very powerful. At full level, he roundabout does 3/4 of the damage that I do, which is pretty damn decent, to be honest, and especially with how tanky he is. Now, one thing I have tried to test out a little bit, but I haven't gotten some concrete evidence really. I don't think it actually really affects if you buff your character beforehand and then summon him. Now do be careful, because if, for example, your character is slow rolling, that means your Mimic will be slow rolling too. Basically anything your character's weak against, the Mimic will be weak against as well. And yes, he will also do your Ashes of War every now and then, which means that he can deal out some crazy damage out of nowhere. Now I said that the last one was strong, but this one, oof, it's the most overpowered, like, summon in the game. This old man right here can basically one-shot anything in the game as long as he looks at it. Yeah, no, I'm joking. He's quite terrible, to be honest. He can take a few hits, but seriously, that's about it. He's literally this guy right here. And I don't know about you guys, but I have killed those guys like a million times, and they have not really posed a threat. Yeah, his movement speed's terrible too. Alright, now we move on to some more decent ones. The Rotten Stray is actually a pretty decent one because, well, just like the dogs that you fight, he will dodge and weave and basically attack from every angle he can. Meaning, if you don't like the dogs, then, well, your enemy's not gonna like the dog either. He doesn't take many hits though, but he is good at dodging, so he has that for it. And his damage output is okay. Alright, now we got the Lone Wolves. Now you start off with this one. This will literally be the first one you can get. I mean, unless you run over to a certain location to get an Ash of War before you actually get the bell that can actually summon them. Now, they are pretty decent. Like the dog before, they actually do avoid a lot of damage by dodging and weaving out of the way. I do think they hang around the target a bit too much, meaning they actually take a few more hits than they really need to. But apart from that, you know, they are pretty decent. And as you can see over there, they can actually break the poise pretty damn easily from the enemy. Alright, now we move on to the Ancestral Follower. Now, this guy is actually pretty decent. As you can see with his charge up attack over there, it doesn't do too much damage against this guy, but he can actually charge this attack from quite a long distance, meaning that this guy is perfect for keeping his distance and shooting the boss or enemies from afar. Now the cool thing about this guy is that he will switch to a melee weapon if the enemy gets too close, meaning he's not too bad in hand-to-hand combat. But as soon as the enemy moves away again, he will move back to his bow. So I reckon as long as you can keep the enemy distracted, he's actually a pretty good pick. Alright, now we come to the rats. Now, there's one weird thing about these rats. First of all, they always seem to spawn away from you, unlike the other summons, like that spawn right in front of you. These guys just spawn wherever the hell they feel like it. Now, just like the Mannequin Soldiers, these guys will also attack everything that's just hanging about. So, yeah, kind of a good, bad thing, I guess. They don't cost any FP. They also don't cost any health. So, I guess that's always a benefit. But, yeah, they're pretty weak. Only a few shots. They don't do too much damage, so I guess the only good thing about them really is that they don't cost FP, they don't cost health, they don't cost nothing. Alright, now we're gonna end the video with one of my favorite summons, which is actually surprisingly the jellyfish. I don't know, I just have like a weird fondness for this little creature right here. Just because, well, he fires so slowly, which means that the boss is attracted to him, and then will be focused back on you, and then will be focused back on the jellyfish in a really nice pattern, allowing you to deal so much damage. But yeah, the jellyfish is quite tanky, but he's not really built for damage. He does have the attack he's doing right now. It actually applies poison over time. So that is a really good one. He's got some melee attacks too, but I don't know. I just have like a soft spot for this little guy. Alright, now that you guys seen a few of my summons, I got quite a bit more actually, but I will save that for another video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and to catch them is your real test. To train them is your cause. Elden Ring, gotta catch 'em all. Nah, you guys have a good one, eh? And bye!